Welcome to the June meeting of the EAC. We're on. Okay, great. Thank you. Let's review the minutes real quick. Did anybody get a chance to look at them? Any edits or changes?
I didn't see any.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes. I'll second that.
All right, seconded. Minutes are approved. Thank you. I have one quick announcement. I saw on the Radnor Conservancy website today that in August, which is a little ways away, but I don't know if we'll be meeting in July, there's a bat box building event in the morning of August 25th. That sounds kind of interesting. I think Dan might be involved in that. He's not here right now, but those are always kind of fun events. Any other announcements from other folks? Okay.
If it's upcoming stuff, I just noted I get these Darby Creek Valley Association, so Meadowbrook Run. Sorry. I get these Darby Creek Valley Association notices. Meadowbrook Run volunteers are doing Saturday the 30th, this Saturday at 9 a.m.
Is that a stream cleanup event or
It is
something else?
Create upland and wetland meadows for pollinators.
For pollinators. Okay, cool.
So they had a couple. So it's 9 to 12 on Saturday the 30th.
What does that mean for pollinators?
Well, I assume it's bees, but also maybe like butterflies or.
But what are the volunteers doing?
Oh, they're creating upland and wetland meadows
Okay.
for the
So they're
pollinators.
planting.
Yes, yes, planting. Yep. Manually cut and pull invasives to be spot. You know, things like that. Anything over 8 inches, they have to do stuff, whatever. So then that's one upcoming.
That's great. Thank you. Any other announcements? We good? We were going to recognize the EAC interns who served over the course of the school year and thank them for their service, in particular with connection to the Stream Science project. I don't believe any of the interns are actually here tonight. I've got a letter of appreciation that will get out to them, but I'll read off the names of the interns here so that they can be recognized. The interns included Mairead Brogan, Maya Casillas, Abigail Adicula, Ashley Kalin, Regal Noy, Ellie Rosen, and Mariana Flutie. And we thank them for their service. They were really instrumental in helping us get the Stream Science program off the ground. This was a brand new program that, as you folks know, was funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. They offer an educational grant. We bought some equipment and really hadn't done anything like this before. So the interns were in the interesting but sometimes uncomfortable position of having to help us make it up as we went along. And the interns helped with field activities. They went out into the water with kids. We visited stream sites at 4 different locations, and they also helped in the classroom and in the laboratory, teaching kids how to use stereo microscopes and how to look at insects and identify them. They did a great job. Their professionalism and their creativity were outstanding, and we really appreciate their contribution. Let's go on to new business. There was a communication that I got from our liaison, Ben Cooper, about the governor's new program called Driving Pennsylvania Forward. And it's the idea is that they're going to use funds from the Volkswagen litigation to pay for fleet renewals. And I think I looked at the report a little bit. It's not a full-fledged call for proposals yet. That's going to come later. This is just kind of a sketch of what they want to do. But the funds are essentially there to take old diesel vehicles and upgrade them to newer technology so that they're less polluting. As you guys know, diesel engines are very efficient, but they're also very smoky. So they put out a lot of pollution and a couple of chemicals in particular that are pretty noxious. So the idea is to take some of those older vehicles, and they have specific age requirements and specific engine sizes and things like that. And they're going to have some grant programs as well as some rebates for communities that want to upgrade. We are probably eligible for that. I was in communication with Steve McNellis this week. He's the new director of Public Works, and we went back and forth. We played a little bit of phone tag. I hadn't read the full report at that point, so I wasn't quite sure what the program was about. I think we may want to investigate this and see if the township needs recommendations from us on how to proceed. And, if we can help them kind of parse the language of the program and figure out how to move forward, that might be worthwhile. I'd like to kind of get your opinions and see if you guys think that's a worthwhile direction to go. Andrew?
Sure. I mean, I would say absolutely. Are they mainly for like trucks and large vehicles, and would buses through the school district be eligible as well?
Buses are definitely eligible, and I think the program does skew toward really large vehicles like ships and, kind of freight vehicles. But there are lots of different classes, and I didn't spend enough time reading the 32-page report to really get into the details, but that's something we may have to kind of look at a little bit and see what makes sense and what doesn't. There are some of this is just retrofitting old engines. Some of it is for taking diesel vehicles and converting them to zero emissions using hydrogen cells or something more exotic like that. I don't know that we'd be necessarily interested in doing that because the infrastructure requirements would probably be substantial, but we might want to just check and see what's in there.
I remember about 7 or 8 years ago, I think it was in EAC also, that the state used to subsidize biodiesel too. I don't know if that'll be part of the new program or not.
I didn't see that on there, but it's totally possible.
Just one comment on if, first and foremost, I guess, is when you say Steve McNellis, the Director of Public Works, is that where the fleet and the buying decisions about fleet vehicles is owned?
I believe so, but that may be something we need to investigate a little bit further. This was, from my point of view, really just information gathering.
Definitely.
I would speculate the school district is its own.
That's a very
Supposed to be
good
its
point,
own.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
you're
we
right.
might want to reach out to them.
And then the other comment was that if the funds are available from Volkswagen in the name of enabling renewables, then if infrastructure was needed, like a charging station, I could see that being potentially arguably covered. So, what I'm saying, I wouldn't want that to be just a prohibitor, that if someone's got a pot of money in the name of it, if that's a requirement, if you will, we might be able to get a charging station out of it and some infrastructure from it.
Absolutely, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we should take a look at that and see, kind of what the scope of this is. What I'll propose as next steps, why don't I send the link out to folks and you can read the report, and next time we get together, maybe we can figure out a plan of action. I'll also reach out to somebody at the school district and see if they have interest in looking into this. Any other new business? Okay. Why don't we talk about sustainable parks? I don't know that there's any park news from folks here. One thing I'll mention is that I spoke to Tammy Cohen a few weeks ago about the stream science program. We've got a bunch of equipment that's really just sitting right now, and we're going to try to store it here in the township, maybe in the basement. I'd love to see them use the equipment for more stream science-y kind of stuff. And she suggested that maybe in connection with some of the summer camps that they do at the township, we might be able to make that happen.
Out of curiosity, when you were doing the program, was
Yep.
anything done at the streams at the Willows?
We did go to the Willows a couple times, mostly for information gathering, so I didn't take a full group out there. I took a handful of kids with me.
But there are streams and ponds and things like that.
There are streams, and actually we found a lot of scuds there, which may not mean a lot to you, but those are fairly intolerant to pollution, so they're a good indicator of stream health.
What's a scud?
A scud is a little tiny thing that looks kind of like a shrimp. They're sort of translucent. You can almost see, kind of inside. They have lots of little legs and little pokey things sticking out of their head, and a tiny little tail like a shrimp. And they're just kind of bugs that live in the water, but they're good indicator species.
Because the cottage, I don't know how much storage space there might be there, but
That's a really good idea. Yeah, we should check into that. Thank you. Sustainable Pennsylvania certification. Ron, you had some news on this.
Yeah, so the update, so I sent out the email last night, and what I did is I just went through the Google Doc and saw lots of entries, which was great. You saw my note about Colleen, that many were from Colleen, so thanks, Colleen. And so I just did some math and tallied up all the questions that we answered a definitive yes to, that we were also able to provide links, and supporting evidence that we do this, whatever the question was. And I tallied those up, and we were at 82 points, and that puts us just over the threshold for submitting to request for silver level certification. So at least a starting point. And I guess what I was thinking for next steps is, as we talked last time, hey, let's get as many as we can answered pretty easily, low-hanging fruit, and then now we have to make sure we get awareness and buy-in from the right township people that say, hey, we answered yes to this question, and here's the link we're planning to use for it, and make sure we get that blessing. I think that's probably the key next step. And then worst case, we can submit what we have, try for silver, and best case, maybe they answer some more questions, and we get more points, and we can submit for gold or something like that.
Is silver the lowest level, or is
No,
bronze the lowest level?
there's at least a bronze. I think it's bronze, silver, gold, and platinum.
So that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's associate, be even below bronze. Yeah,
Interesting, okay.
So we're like be in the middle.
So we're kind of in the middle even without doing a whole lot,
Yes.
just by documenting what we've already done. So
Yep.
that's great news.
So my suggestion was going to be, why don't we, regardless of whether we're going to keep, I mean, we are going to keep going, but I think we submit now, or as early as we can get the township. If we don't submit, the township does, because that'll at least validate that we're doing it correctly. Like, why go too much further without getting a little reinforcement?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the submittal process is really, I think I offer to do it, that, I'll transcribe the stuff from the answers and the links into the official website form. But I like to do that with the blessings of the township people. And I'm totally with you. Whatever we get from that, let's submit it. Now we've got a baseline. Let's say we get silver. That's great. Now we can kind of make a trajectory to move on up.
I fully agree. I think that's a great path forward, and I suspect if we go to the township and say, hey, what do you think? They'll say, go ahead. I don't think there's going to be any resistance if we offer to do it, and maybe they'll be able to do part of it themselves as well. But I guess I would suggest that we reach out to Jennifer DeStefano again, and just get her thoughts. If there's anybody else we need to get to the table, we can have a quick phone call and move it forward.
I'll email Jennifer and just give her an update. I'll CC you all on it. That,
Great.
We're at, and maybe she can give maybe 2 or 3 township people that I can come over here for a meeting for half an hour and just review it with them and get their blessings
Great.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I'll
thank
ask for
you.
that, and then
Okay.
we'll wrap it up and submit.
Sounds great. Thank you for looking at that, and thanks for moving it forward. Thanks also to everybody who participated in gathering that information. Interesting stuff, and I do think it's going to be a nice win once we get that nailed down. Great. Skip, anything on liaison?
Well, I was unable to attend this meeting, and for the same reason, I was unable to attend the Planning Commission meeting. We did raise one issue that I'm doing a YouTube report now, I guess. We are still involved in analyzing the parking requirements for medical and dental office. That consistently we've found that that's a problem that we already have, and Penn actually did, comparatively speaking, the right thing and has more parking for their new facility than they have to under the code. But that doesn't mean that the 1,200 square foot dentist office has enough parking and things like that. So we are asking the commissioners for a recommendation that we proceed to evaluate that parking situation in our open public meeting way. There was some other projects that were approved, but they're nothing on that scale. So the parking issue will hopefully come up again in July. Our meeting in July is not Monday. but actually the 17th. It should have been Monday, but we had some quorum issues.
I know how that goes. Thank you. Any old business?
I did want to bring, I don't know if this goes under old business or community environmental awareness, but maybe it's old business. Stoneleigh.
Oh, yes, please.
So the last, as I just gather the emails and see what Molly Morrison sends out, and it looks like they're in pretty good shape. Of course, Molly says we still need to make sure we keep up the awareness and vigilance, which I agree with. But it looks like Lower Merion's looking elsewhere for the school. They identified some other location, and then that still left this potential use of Stoneleigh for a sports complex that I know that their last step was to try to make sure that they had a state law passed where you'd have to get eminent domain reviewed by a judge before they could take it, and that passed. So I think there's some protections there that they can't just come in and take it, and eminent domain, I think, is not a viable option or as easy anymore. So those are all positive and good steps. And I guess my opinion is I just continue to monitor it. If Molly says, hey, we have a flare-up or something, we could probably do something. But I feel like they've sort of won for the most part, and so that's the last I know of that situation.
Thanks, Ron. Could you remind me what Molly's role is?
Yes, I could. She is,
Thank you.
yeah, listen, she is the president of Natural Lands.
President of Natural Lands,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
It was a good article in the Inquirer today.
Thank you. If folks didn't hear that on the microphone, there was a good article in the Inquirer about it this afternoon. Great, thank you. Any other announcements, old business that I missed? Okay. We'll go to community comment next. Sarah, do you want to jump in?
Good evening. I'm Sarah Pilling. I live at 29 Garrett Avenue. And I'm working with Robin Mann. She and I have formed a minimal committee for the Sierra Club's Ready for 100 program, which came into existence after the United States pulled out of the Paris Accord. And we've had a lot of conversations with the Democratic members of the Board of Commissioners and have decided that it needs to be a two-prong effort, bottom up while we're going top down. There is now a Ready for 100 committee in Delaware County, and I invite you to come to their meetings. It's once a month. The next one is the 13th of July from 7:30 to 9 at the Borough Hall in Swarthmore. And I believe Steve Clark is going to show PICO's new software that we'll all be able to use to plug in our bills for a year and look at how we've used our electricity. It's pretty fascinating. It's like you have a column that's divided into quarters. The left quarter is midnight to 6 a.m. The right quarter is 6 p.m. to midnight, and in between is 6 to 6. And the colors are green, using very little electricity, to red. I was telling Matt, Steve came, because he'll go anywhere and talk to anybody about it. He came, and he and Bob and I met about this, just about this building, and using this software. The township's using over 1 billion kilowatts hours of electricity per year because the air conditioning and the heat are both on at the same time. And so it was mostly red. It's never dark green because the police are downstairs, so you have to build that in. It was quite amazing. I believe Steve is going to demonstrate it at the 13th of July, which means Skip eventually will be able to plug in his bill and look at how he's using his electricity. It's a great group. There's Radnor, Media, Swarthmore, Nether Providence, Prospect Park, Chester, there are about 9 different communities who are part of this coalition, and all of whom are willing to help each other. So with Robin, who's on the National Sierra Club Board, we were able to get the list of the Sierra Club members who live in Radnor Township. And it's 450 people. Some won't give you an email address, and some won't receive email, but those that did, I mailed out 269 emails from a letter that we designed that was approved by them, introducing them to this concept. I'll be happy to rework it so it's not just Sierra Club and send it to one of you and you can share it. Robin and I would like to come and make a presentation in September to the EAC because we'd like you to be part of this. This is township governmental. It's also individual residents to just begin to think about their energy use. Do I
We'll put you on the
really
agenda.
need to
Thank you.
set my air conditioning to 68 degrees? Couldn't I up it a little bit, or do I have to have my heat at 72 degrees in the winter? Could I think of lowering it a little and having a blanket where you sit on where you're sitting on the sofa watching television or whatever? So we, after talking to Luke Clark, we decided we had to start at the bottom. And the first thing we've asked these people who have received this letter is to call your commissioner. So I hope that this is going to happen. We've had a good response. It's only been out since 8 o'clock this morning, and I'm beginning to hear from people.
That's great.
We'd like to work with Radnor's EAC and begin to address these issues. It's going to be education.
That sounds great. Thank you for including us.
It's just going to take time. So there were 2 other things I wanted to tell you.
Could I ask a quick
Sure.
question, though? Is there a social media, is there a Facebook page or
There's
someplace?
going to be a
There
Delaware
will be.
County Facebook page, and Haverford Township is really taking the leadership.
Okay.
They are loaded for bear, and they're doing a series of educational programs this summer. And I just this morning wrote Meg Clark, who's Steve Clark's wife, who's very involved, to get the electronic copy of the Changing Your Energy Provider. They've got it down to step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4.
Great.
And to let me know of the series of programs they're doing this summer, all environmental. So soon as I have that, I think I have Skip's email, I'll get yours and we'll go through this.
That sounds great. Thanks.
You
And
were talking about the parks, and I want you to know that the Willows Park Preserve, the WPP, has received a gift from Bartlett Trees, and they're going to identify 200 trees in the Willows Park and label sufficient for us to become a level 1 arboretum. We really don't want to go any higher because a level 2 arboretum, you have to have paid staff. Level 1, you have volunteer staff. So hopefully in a pretty short time, that will have started and we'll be developing some educational programs. You talked about the stream, and we're very concerned, I've been concerned for a long time, about particularly the Little Darby Creek, because the American eel was observed up under what became the new bridge 2 years ago. I don't know whether you know its life cycle. They spawn in the Sargasso Sea, wherever that is in the Atlantic, closer to Europe than here. European ales and American ales, little itty bitty guys. And the magic moment happens, whatever that is, and the European eels go east and the American eel goes west. They're saltwater eels at that time.
I had no idea.
They transition from saltwater to freshwater. They go up creeks, and the DEP stopped the building of that bridge for 2 months because they saw this eel up in the Willows Park. They're sort of in the shape of a leaf at that time. I've never seen one. And they do whatever they do up there. At a magic moment, whatever that is, they go downstream, and as they begin to get to brackish to saltwater water, they become a saltwater fish. And they go back to the Sargasso Sea.
Wow.
Now, here's the problem. The Japanese love baby eels. And they're getting $3,000 or $4,000 a pound for them. So all you need is a bright light and a fine fish net, and you go out at night, and they're catching these things. So the American eel is very close to being put on the endangered species list. So, I mean, it's wonderful that we have it in Radnor, but we need to look at that stream. What you may or may not know is I've been working with John Rice the last, I think this is our 4th year, to find out what the farmer at the quarry field was using in the way of chemicals. Yes, we have gotten him down from about 9 chemicals to 3 herbicides. But one of the ones we have no real power to say you can't use this, but we can suggest to him, was he used paraquat this year, and that is terrible on fish. So I don't know whether John will be the solicitor or we'll have a new solicitor. Who knows? I don't want to get into that, but I will continue to work on that to get that farmer down to manure and maybe one herbicide that does not have paraquat in it. He used to plant soybeans alternating with corn, but the deer keep eating the soybeans, so it's not profitable. I have heard that Eddie Scott really wants he and the cows to go away because he wants to be able to sell more of the Ardrossan property, and that farmhouse will probably go for a pretty penny someday. So who knows how long they're going to be there. Following that along, I think I told you all that I was very fortunate to go to the Al Gore Climate Reality 3-day workshop last October in Pittsburgh. And I've proposed to Bob, but I'm only one person. And one person can make a suggestion, but it sort of tends to fall in a pot. I would like for climate change and for stream clearing that on public land, parks, where there are streams, that instead of having a 35-foot buffer, which is mandated, we plant 50 feet of trees for the 21st century. They could have paths that go in them. That's not the problem. They can be 5-foot whips of trees that are going to be appropriate for the 21st century to climate change. And I would love to keep this idea alive. And I think there's grant money we can get to do that. And it would be a great educational piece for kids, for the scouts and the watershed to plant some of these. So I'm not moving into your territory. I'm just telling you, there are lots of us who are working in lots of little areas. In fact, Tish Long, who's the president of the Willows Park Preserve, got a phone call from the Darby Creek Valley Watershed Association, and she wants to come talk to Tish. So I'm not quite sure what that's about, but we're all going fishing. And the Willows Park Preserve had written Janet Haas of the William Penn Foundation to see if she and John would like to give a little money to the mansion. And I know Janet, we were in the same garden club many, many years ago. And she wrote me back, wonderful letter, very quickly saying, no, we're into water and education, and particularly in less affluent communities. So I'm going to write Janet back and just plant the seed, because the Darby Creek in Radnor Township and the Little Darby Creek lead to the Darby Creek, which leads to Eastwick. And I understand Eastwick is pumping 24 hours a day because of sea level rise. So let's just so I'd really like to invite the Radnor EAC to come in under this giant umbrella of Ready for 100, because we're all headed in the same direction.
We are indeed. Thank you for including us, and
Well, you're essential to it, and as I go to these meetings once a month, I keep hearing about Haverford's EAC and Media's EAC, and I keep saying to Robin, we need to bring these guys in, get them under the tent, because if we all work together, I think we can get there. It's not going to be easy. I think we can get the township to do a lot, but the individuals, the regular population, it's going to be difficult. And last piece of information, the 15th of July, the DVRPC newest data is going to come out. That's, the original data was 2008, and this is 2013, and it'll be available on their website. Delaware Valley Regional Planning Association. It's going to give you all the energy use, and some of it's going to be very difficult because Route 30 runs through Radnor, and it's a major highway. And the Blue Route runs through Radnor. And so some of this we're not going to be able to tackle.
Sarah, you said 2013 data?
This is 13 data that's coming out in 18, yeah. Takes them that long to write all these reports.
No computers, huh?
I don't know. Maybe an abacus. But anyhow, it's exciting. It's these meetings, and, you know, if any of you want to come, maybe you don't want to do that on a Friday night. It's very energizing because they're committed people there, and they're going to make this thing happen. We now have 4 communities in Chester County: Westchester, Phoenixville, Downingtown, and Kennett Square just came in. And the Montgomery County group, Bill Sabo, is working very hard. They're working with Lower Merion. So we're sort of interworking some of this stuff, because for some of us, it's across the street. But it's really an interesting meeting, and there's a lot of positive energy. Okay, so I will rewrite the letter so it's not from this Sierra Club, and send it to you, and I'll send you the link for the Delaware County Ready for 100. It's up, it's not complete, and Radnor will have its own page. So the snowball is beginning to gather a little bit of.
that's exciting.
Little bit of snow.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. All right. I think we're done unless there's any other comment. Okay, let's adjourn. Thank you very much, everyone. Good to see you.